Today I have Michael Quilty from Wild Bill's Soda. This is a all veteran franchise. So if you're a veteran and you're listening, this is a franchise that you might be interested in, and we'll hear more about it. But this might be something that if you're a veteran, you could start to build a good side business. Um, so Mike, how's everything going?
Good. Thank you for having me, Sean.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
So, um, I'll kind of start out here. I have one of your mugs here, so if everyone can see it, I guess we'll talk about it and some of the sodas behind me. But why don't you give me a little intro on Wild Bill Soda?
Great. Yeah. So I'm a Navy veteran. Served on submarines. Got out. Went into the regular world and got a regular job. Ended up becoming a entrepreneur and started a company with a friend of mine. And we had what was called a 12-year overnight success. So we built a business, had some success, and sold it. And since then, which I guess we sold in 2011, I've spent a lot of my time on just supporting veterans. And while Bill's was came out of the idea of what's the best way to support somebody, but to help them become an entrepreneur, help them get a job. We actually bought this company specifically to create jobs for veterans, and we started out with Marines, and then we added some folks from the Army, and then there's myself, and we have one other Navy rep, and then most recently we onboarded some folks from the Air Force, but very
So
much
your cans weren't colored in crayon; they were.
no, no, but I will say, I was in the Navy. I went to school. I knew some Marines and had them as friends. I can definitely say there's similarities between all the branches, but there's huge differences too. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
It's fun, and our teams are we usually have these events happening, and it's kind of a mix of people. And we do have non-veterans as well. We have a handful of non-veteran franchisees who were around before we bought the business, and then we've also added some mostly veterans, but we'll have families of veterans, first responders, police, fire department folks. But the whether they're a veteran or not, they have to fit into the culture, which is very much as you would know, Sean, of a culture of growth, accountability, leading by example, trying to do good and create value for our customers, have a good time, and also make money.
Okay, so Wild Bills was a franchise before, right? Is
It
that
was a franchise. I initially was I started out in the company as a franchisee, and then became the franchisor. I guess I've heard this that happen to other people too. I didn't know very much about franchising, but what I would say is starting out as a franchisee, you have an appreciation for what does it take to be a good franchisor that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, I found when when I got into my franchise, it it was like a on the job MBA. It
Yep.
was you're learning everything on the ground. Um, and then what's good is you have that support system of a franchise there. So it's like you have your business, but then again you also have this um, a net. There is sort of a safety net, but there's also the all the support and the resources that are there for your business. So
The playbook, so to speak.
right, right. And that's why they say a lot of veterans are great at franchising because we have a manual for everything, right? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
there's manuals to how to mow grass. When you're it's so it's it all you got to do is go by the manual and kind of and follow those rules and kind of stay in certain lanes, and they make sure, and the franchisor is there to make sure you're not it going off somewhere on way out in left field or um, I think that's where I've seen most franchisees have problems is because one of the top reasons would be going rogue. They're doing something they're not supposed to be doing, or deciding that their ideas are better or smarter. And yeah, that's definitely one of the problems that people would have. So I
Yes.
would say, yeah, follow the playbook.
Yeah, we have, and the other piece, so we have, we don't bring on that, we're growing slow, so we're bringing on, franchisees kind of, we have 20 and we're bringing on, the goals to bring on 10 more, which is something we can do. And when they all have ideas and new ideas, and that's great, and we say, follow the system. And the reason why we know that idea doesn't work is because we tried it and two other franchisees tried it. So, like for instance, for our business, you would think, oh, concerts must be great. So our model is we travel around with these mobile soda stands. We sell the mugs that you showed, and they're customized. So it'll say, Sturgis Motorcycle Rally 80th anniversary. It'll say New York Comic Con, and and everybody thinks, yeah, that's one of our copper. It's tankard,
Yep.
yep. And people always say, oh, this would be great at concerts, and we're like, we have done with us and our franchisees, we've done 13, 14 conference, you know, um, outdoor concerts, and they don't work. And here's why. And the ones that do work tend to be ones that don't have alcohol. But there's things that you would naturally think, oh, I should try to do this or try to do that. And it's only because we made the mistake do we tell people, hey, when you're going to do a new event, start with one stand, not two stands or three stands. So we have new franchisees. They say, oh, this is a great event. It's the largest event in the state of whatever. I'm going to start out big. And our recommendation is always, start out small and test it and then do better the next year rather than getting out over your skis. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, why do you think concerts just didn't work? Was it an alcohol thing
it's a
or?
total, a total alcohol. That's what people are there for. And the ones that have worked for us are these called Life Fest, which are Christian concerts. And what was common is there's no alcohol.
Gotcha.
So those were always good shows for us. They are good shows for us, but most other ones aren't. Now we do a lot of bike rallies, and the bike rallies have a concert component to them, but it's not primary. But bike rallies work great. Comic Cons work great. Anime conventions, gaming, Renaissance fairs, steampunk festivals,
Okay.
state fairs, county fairs. They all like we just have a sense as to what works, and it's the magic is making sure you're picking the right one and paying the right fees and picking the right spot. And we just have a lot of experience doing it. And then we have our franchisees all work together too. They're very, very collaborative, and we all kind of work together as a team. People back each other up, which is our Marine backing up our Air Force, and then the Air Force guy backing up the Navy guy.
Yeah,
We're working together.
that's nice to see too. And then you probably get that just the military community, would do that, but also being a franchisee to have someone, I don't know, they could be in the state next to them. I don't know if you're in,
Yeah,
Illinois and you have another franchisee in Indiana or something like that, and they're like, "Hey, I
correct.
want to, you know, I'll come help you out." Um, that's and depending on how big the event is. So, but so what exactly does Wild Bills look like? So if if someone were to see it, or I don't know, they may have seen it already. What makes it different than other franchises kind of in this
Yeah.
industry?
I think the biggest thing, so I'm new to franchising. I've just been going, starting going to franchise shows and learning the industry. I know it from our company, but I wasn't really that familiar with kind of the overall ecosystem. And the biggest piece is that we're mobile. So, a lot of, you see these franchises that, it's costing millions of dollars or $1 million or 750 or like a lot of money to open a location. We don't have a location. We go to the location. So the mobile is probably the biggest one. The other one is customers don't come come to us. We go to customers. So that's part of mobile as well. So if we do one of our big events is New York Comic Con. We're just going places where people are, and so we don't have the fixed brick and mortar. And we also, this is seasonal work. It's mostly weekend work, although you can get events on the weekdays as well. It's not like when you open a brick and mortar and you put the hours, like you're there whether or not the customers are there or whether or not it rains, whether or not it's fundamentally different. So I think the mobile nature is really different. The fact that we're going to customers, and then the business has been around. We're in our 24th year. We're a known brand, and particularly in states where we've been operating for a long, long, long time, people just expect us to be at events. And as we open up new markets, a lot of times how that can bleed open to a new market start is a promoter that we're working with in one state also does events in another state. And so when we say, oh, we have a franchisee right now in Las Vegas, we already know venues, we already know promoters, we already know concessions companies. A lot of times it's just going in and meeting with people who they've seen us in other places. So they're like, oh, I know this concept. And a lot of the people, some of our shows are indoors, most are outdoors. On the indoors, there's this whole industry of people who work in these indoor convention centers at different concessions companies and companies that manage these concession centers. And those people, it's kind of like IBM back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, where you just move around. It's like a version of that. So we find people, that we worked with in New Orleans at the convention center who then goes somewhere else and calls us and says, I'm at this convention center now. I have these events. I know, the promoter's asking about you guys, are you able to come? And right now what we do is for markets where we don't have franchisees, we put a piece of equipment in the market and then we fly people in to service them. So many times when like right now, Portland, Oregon is a market where we have events, we don't have a franchisee, we have equipment there, we have a great relationship with the venue, which is the convention center. Denver, Colorado is another example where we do a big show called FanX in the Fan Expo in the convention center. There's other shows there. We're having to fly staff in. We do other parts of California, a lot in the Midwest, Missouri and Kentucky, and just
now, do you have franchisees there, or
we don't.
are
Yeah.
no? Okay,
Yeah.
so you're trying
So
to find franchisees in those areas, then.
in a lot of parts of, and then we have franchisees with really large territories who are interested in doing less. So we've had a couple of examples of somebody saying, our franchisee in New Jersey, which is where we started, he sold, he got too big, got too complex, had too many, he's so we have always had examples of somebody who's grown something big and wants to pare down, and it's good for them to have an exit, and then it's great for a new person coming in who's starting with a book of business.
I know the territories can be big. Like I could see, like here in Raleigh, right? There's things going on every weekend. There's,
Yes.
I can pull up, I can just search, hey, what's going on in Raleigh this weekend or in Wake Forest? There's always an event. I know even here in just Wake Forest, I mean, it's small, but during the summer, we have like Meet in the Street, which is like downtown Wake Forest. I think it's every week or every other week, but there's food trucks and everything all lined up. They block off the main street.
Yep.
And all the stores have stuff out, and it's just people everywhere. They're playing a concert in the middle of the street. They have, things like that are going on just constantly. So I could see this being an easy concept. Yeah, just pull up. And you're talking about brick and mortar. There's brick and mortar franchise. I talk to people all the time that want to get into even a coffee shop or something, and they think,
Yeah.
oh, it's just coffee, but it's 500. You're looking at like probably $500,000-$600,000 to really, maybe as little as like maybe 3 if you're trimming the edges. But if you go all out, depending on the size of the space and everything, it can be very costly. And people, look at me like sideways when I say that. But
Yes.
having a brick and mortar business is much more expensive, and then you have a lot more operating expenses. So
Yes.
having something that's mobile can be if you're a veteran, you're thinking about something like this, having something mobile, there's a lot less um, operating expenses. So give you an example. So there's a restaurant, a little small restaurant here, Charlie's Kebabs, but the guy also owns Dusty Donuts, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something like that. But the business was basically the guy who had it before retired and passed it off to this owner. But he was telling me that the donuts, he's like he loves doing the food trucks because his business, the kebabs, he has a food truck. But when he got into this mobile donut business, it was like he's like it's like water and dough. He was like the there's no overhead. It's so easy to make, and this is very similar. I mean, you're looking at water
Yes.
and syrup, right?
Yes. And you just plug it in. There's no mixing required.
Right.
Yeah. And we need, water and electricity. And, we always bring our own generators, but we usually get, a lot of times you get power. And then water, we bring our own water, but a lot of times you get water. So, it's just like in the military, you go, we bring two generators, we bring extra water tanks. We've learned, whatever, we're pretty decent at picking good shows and then pretty decent at using the attendance to project sales. And then we pack out 25% more in case you have, a really good event. And, a couple times a year, we'll have to do emergency trips you'll be short. It'll just for whatever reason end up being a really great event. So that's always a lot of fun in the weekend when we hear, somebody's trying to get mugs and trying to get syrup because they, it was a brand new event, hadn't done it before. Or even sometimes we do historical events, but they bring in special talent. So at these Comic Cons, it's a matter of who the talent is and who's signing autographs. And sometimes, just the attendance will be stronger. And we've learned you really got to track these things and really plan out the hours and the days and make sure you have enough and that you got a plan in case you run out.
And and I can see how and you can describe the like the trailer or truck
Yep.
itself,
Yep.
but it's like it unfolds to an old, I don't know,
Yeah.
1800s saloon type of thing. I
Yes.
looked it up on Instagram. It was pretty cool. So I could see how that could blend into a lot of shows or Comic Cons, or I don't know. It made me think of my kids play Red Dead Redemption, so
Yes.
that's what it made me
Yes.
think of.
Yes. And then we do weddings, so we get requests all the time to go to weddings, and each of the franchisees will do some of them. We get requests to do company parties, company events, summer barbecues, kind of all over the country. We've done hospital employee appreciation days. We do a car dealership that wants to have a neat little activation for customers when they have their Hyundai days or whatever, their special days. So yeah, it's the whole Wild West piece really resonates with a lot of people, and we can be in these science fiction or themed events, and but we're still we're there and a part of it. It's the whole Wild West tradition, and then of course we fit in really well with steampunk. And for anime, or excuse me, for Renaissance festivals, we dress the stands up with a medieval look, and we have new names for the soda, and we have
Oh,
yeah, we have like this. Yeah, that's a real. This is a heavy duty, but this is like perfect for a Renaissance fair.
because so how do your franchise, just to kind of get back on track here. Um, uh, so somebody goes through the process of being a franchisee. So let's explain that. How does typically a franchisee go through the process with you guys?
Yeah, a big piece is coming to an event and seeing the model and working an event and saying, this is something that I like to do and want to do. Our we our franchisees all enjoy working on the weekends and doing these kind of events, and a lot of us would be going to these events anyway. So the big piece is that you really, really enjoy the work. And the work is customer, it's the operations and the planning and the logistics and we have a couple different pieces of equipment. You're having to move your stand and set it up and get the cash register going, get your inventory out, and and it's sales. You're talking to customers. A lot of times you get hoarse from, particularly these big Comic Cons. You might be 12 hours straight just talking to people, selling, selling, selling. So the biggest piece is you come to an event, you gotta really like doing the work. And I would say of our franchisees, everybody's like, they either go to bike rallies. They usually have some genre that they're already very active in, and they're already used to going to a bike rally. And all of these things are more similar than different. So, you're used to going to Comic Cons, and then you go to an anime or a gaming. So I'd say the big piece is you got to like the work, and it is weekend work. It's also seasonal work. So with very few exceptions, we have a couple markets that are true, year round, but most, you're closing down after Thanksgiving and opening up in March, unless you're doing, maybe there's some indoor things you're doing at convention centers, but most of our franchisees take some downtime. So you got to be, open to, seasonal weekend work. And then the other big piece is just meeting our team, and there being the fit of, this looks like somebody who we want people who are going to be successful. So it's not just, write a check and you're part of the team. We want to make sure, is this person going to be successful? Is the market good? Are they going to have the wherewithal to do this? A couple of weekends in a row of setting up these stands and serving customers. Like, you got to have a real desire to do it.
Right. What about training? Do you guys do, like, as the, after the franchisee gets on, what's that look like?
Well, the biggest piece is we have a HQ in Allentown, PA, and we have folks come to Allentown and do the training, and that way they meet the whole support team. So a lot of our staff is there, and then we also we send a training staff member to their first event, just to make sure it goes well. But for the last couple of franchisees, they've also gone to other events. They've either known, like, a lot of our franchisees were employees, or they worked at events, so they already knew the model, and then they went on to go to a different market and open up and become a franchisee. But it does take a couple of times of setting it up and getting the square to work and setting up setting up inventory. All these things take time and practice, and we have we're available. The company operates on the weekends, so between our the training that we do, the staff that we send for typically the first event to get somebody on their feet, and then if there's questions during the weekend, it's just a matter of calling. And the franchisees help each other too. So we have folks who are local and in the same time zone that back each other up, and then we have a great corporate team with a lot of experience in the equipment and doing events.
Now, are you able to? You mentioned indoors, so I know it's mainly a trailer type of thing. Are you guys able to get the trailer inside on indoor events?
Yeah. So yes, with a asterisk on it, a caveat, which is it depends on the venue. So most convention centers have gigantic bay doors. Some smaller convention centers have smaller bay doors, and you've seen the big piece of equipment with 7 kegs on it. We have smaller ones that just can get into smaller venues. And the smallest one we have breaks into pieces, and so you can get it into a hotel. So we do events. A lot of hotels will have little small regional events in their ballrooms, and we could never get a piece of equipment in. And so we figured we gotta, many years ago, we built something that went through the front door of a, normal sized door, but it just breaks down in pieces. It's more work having to break it down and set it up. You'd prefer not to, but if that's the only way you're going to get in, it's kind of what we do.
You're only working the weekend. So is this seen more of a side hustle, or can this be a full blown business?
Yeah. So it depends on what people want. With one stand, it's probably a side hustle, but most of our franchisees have 2 or more, and some have 4. So somebody who has 4 stands probably has a general manager, that they're paying seasonally. The person with 1 stand is doing a lot of the events themselves, and then the people with 2 have some workers. But we have a mix of part-time side all the way to it's all they do. It's their full-time job, and it's kind of a pretty even spread. I would say that it takes time, so maybe it starts out as a side hustle. By the time you get your we have had examples of people by the time they got 2 and 3 stands, they got rid of their day job. Like they didn't. One guy was a salesman for office copiers and stuff like that, and as he built up the business, we had another employee, another franchisee who worked at Dell for many years, had flexible hours and could set up on a Friday, and then as he bought more stands and got more shows, he gave up his full-time job. We do have one franchisee right now who is a teacher, so he does the week. The summer is great because he's off, and the weekends he has off. So, but it's a real mix of depending upon what people want.
Now the canned sodas like the ones that you sent me. So you're able to sell those as well too. So if somebody's thinking about this, they could think of, I can get that into some of, I don't know, the golf place I'm always at, or, I don't know, local shop or something, right? Is that
Well, I'd
also
say
something?
well, right now the canned soda primarily for many of the franchisees sell the canned soda, and they sell it at events. So there could be an event where you can't pour from it's rare, but sometimes you just can't get we can't get in our stand in the venue, and so people have done cans, and you buy a mug, you get 3 cans, and they had a punch card. And then the other one is having people have sold cans at events where you only have 7 flavors on tap, but we have a lot more than that, and so they've had you can buy the mug, you get unlimited refills of the flavors on tap, and then we also have cans of flavors. And then we've had franchisees selling 4-packs to go. So we have our soda in 4-packs. So somebody could say, I really like the root beer, and then on the way out, we have a pile of 4-packs to go. So we've done that too.
Okay. Yeah, you guys have. How many flavors do you have? I know the ones you sent me.
Yeah.
There's ring pop
Yes.
ones. There was rocket pop. There was a regular soda. There was I don't know, vanilla cream, orange cream. There was a whole bunch of them.
Yes. We have two. I think we have too many flavors of soda. Sean is the proper answer. So we have a lot because that's what customers want. But of course, it's very inefficient having so many flavors. So we tend to say we're retiring it briefly, and then we're cycling. There's a bunch of oldies and goodies that people are always asking for, and we'll bring things back. Sarsaparilla is an example of there's a following of people who like sarsaparilla soda, and we had it in can. Yeah, we do have it in bibs, so we will sell it at the stands in certain markets where it's a thing. But we had it in cans, and it would sell really well online. And then we stopped.
What does that
and then
taste
people
like?
complained. So it's a
What?
version of a birch beer, yeah, or
Okay.
version of a root beer, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But so we have too many flavors of soda, and but we always have to bring them back because people complain when they can't get them.
Now, you said most of a lot of your franchisees have worked for Wild Bills or something like that.
Yes.
Um, is there any way that you find a lot of those veterans?
So we find them the good old fashioned way, which is just through a lot of it's just through your network, and then we go to events and we put up signs saying franchisees wanted, and people see the veteran owned and operated label, and we just meet people. Like you meet people. I did a veteran fair in Pennsylvania last fall, and it was just full of not everybody attending was a veteran, but a lot of people were, and you just find people that are looking for work or looking for possibly to do franchising. But we do a lot of just old fashioned networking, because we're doing, last year we did 504 events. So that's a lot of eyeballs. And some of these events, you think of a New York Comic Con or a San Diego Comic Con or the Ohio State Fair, like it's a lot of people going to those events.
Right. How big are your territories normally? Like, for example, if someone who was here in Raleigh and they had the Raleigh territory, is it just covering maybe Raleigh, or are they going to be covering like half this, like central North Carolina,
Yeah.
maybe Fayetteville to, you know what I mean? Like how big
Yep.
usually is that territory?
Well, we're redoing our FDD for 2026, and the territories will be 250 to 400,000 people, and then most people are picking a couple of territory, adjacent territories, and then have a time, development rights over a time to get each territory has one stand, so they're doing one territory and then buying a second stand and getting a second territory. And as I said, most people, I think our average for stands is probably right around 3, and we have people with 4 and people with 1, but the people with 1 are all kind of moving towards having 2. So most people have a couple of territories, and most of them are contiguous. So you try not to, we're not. There are franchise systems that are like sold. They've been sold so much it's hard to find open territory. We have a lot of open territory right now.
How quickly have you seen some of your franchisees scale? So if they started out with one trailer or, one setup, how quickly have you seen them move to the next?
Yeah, it really depends on what they want. But if somebody who says I want to grow and build a couple of territories and have a couple of stands, it's typically every year. So like the first year they're opening up a territory, getting familiar with prospecting, doing events. The second year they're adding a stand. And one of the nice things about when you add a stand is it's not, you will want to use the stand in a new territory, but also in your existing territory, there's always weekends where you have more than one good event. And so usually in the first year, people are looking at Memorial Day, Labor Day, the ones that you would guess, and saying, oh my God, or 4th of July. There's like, it's, 4th of July, there's a lot of events. And the hard part for a new franchisee is like, oh my, like, I think I want to go to all of them. And you're like, well, you don't have 6 stands, you have one stand, like, pick the one. So, by
I
the
was
second,
I was actually just
yeah,
thinking that. So,
yeah,
it could be, Raleigh has their convention center, but then they also have the NC State Fairgrounds. Like there's something going on there all the time.
yes,
And then outside of Raleigh, you have, there's not far from here, you start going out to Greensboro and they have a convention center right off of 40. You know what I mean? So
yep,
there's like, I know there's Fayetteville. So like, they're not that far away, but I know that there's going to be events there all in those same weekends. So,
yes. And our franchise agreement does allow to go out of territory. So we have, I think of our franchisees, all but one goes out of territory, all of them. And, it's not your event, but you can go until we have a franchisee there. And then a lot of times people will go out of territory, build something, and then say that this is something I should now buy.
okay.
But I did want to say, because every business is hard, and every business is harder than you think. Like every business is hard. The finding the events is like the fun. Oh my goodness, here's this list of events. They all must be good. The key is which ones really are good. Like, and it's just because we've been doing it a lot. We would say, is it of these events, what's the subset of good ones? And then remember you have to get in them. So the Greensboro Convention Center, we would reach out and the convention center might say, we don't want you in here. And so then we have to go find out, well, who's the general manager and what company does he work for? And who do we know at that concessions company at another venue who can call him and tell him about, because a lot of times they're just, they don't know nothing. They don't know anything about us and they're not willing to put in any time. So you do have to, selling to a promoter is easy because the event promoter just wants money. So they'll tell you, come, spend money on a spot fee, but it doesn't mean it's a good event. So you got to be wary of the event promoter. You got to work your way through the venues. Some of these fairgrounds have all kinds of, you gotta get approved to be on there. There might be we have to always deal with health permits. It's not a lot of work, but it's pain in the butt paperwork. So
Yeah. Do you guys have to have a I don't know, is there a food truck type of license for it?
we do. So it depends, and like every state and every places are just different. We recommend the Safe Serve Manager course, which a lot of all of us at corporate have done it, and many of our franchisees and markets do it. When a health inspector comes by and sees you don't have food and you're selling a beverage and it's a bag in a box, it's an easy inspection. But health departments do come by. You have to buy a health department permit, and then sometimes I was in Virginia at a convention center, and they did come by and they wanted to see that you had a food safe serve food manager. And thankfully, we all, it's an online class that you take, but sometimes they ask for that, but it's not like a food truck where they're looking in the refrigerator and looking for mold and checking the temperature of the mayonnaise. Like we don't have food. Oh, we have a bag in a box, and we have clips that clip to it, and we have a water source that's usually provided by the venue. So there's and then
Is there equipment to clean out? Like, let's say you do an event afterwards. You have to clean out the hoses or
Yep.
the little kegs things or something.
Yeah, normal cleanup that you would, not hard. It's not like, it's not like cleaning after cooking or anything like that. There are things where, here in the Northeast where, we have franchisees who are doing things in convention centers, and they're taking their equipment out, driving it on the road. It's 20 degrees here. You do have to winterize the equipment, which is just running food grade antifreeze through it.
Okay.
And then you have to, you get to the venue, you unwinterize it, you finish up your event, you winterize it. It's not hard. It takes a little bit of time. And anybody who has, like, we like franchisees who've had an RV and driven pulled a trailer. If you've had an RV and, had to winterize your RV, you know exactly how to do it. And most of our equipment goes in a trailer. Some of our equipment is just tow behind. And then we have some equipment that's like a food truck. It doesn't look like a food truck. It looks like our stand, but they're Ford E350s. We've stopped building those just because they're so expensive post-COVID. The cost of building anything like that is crazy expensive.
Yeah, pulling a trailer can be a skill.
Yes.
I was helping to move someone out to college. My girlfriend's son, he was going out to App State, and moving him out there, putting everything in a trailer, and I don't know. I hadn't pulled a trailer in forever. The only time I've done it like a handful of times in the Army, but backing that thing up was I don't know. There was times where I was like, guys, we just got out, unhooked it.
Yes.
And I moved it. I was like, we're just going to muscle this thing over here.
Yes. Yes. We have, it takes practice. I'm not the best on our team, but we have a lot of people who are really good. And our first batch of employees who became franchisees were our Marines, and they were artillerymen. And so for them, the pulling a trailer was second nature, and putting the stand goes, the stand's heavy and it goes in and out with a winch. It's just like a howitzer for them. It's like just loading it in, loading it out. And I guess the rounds would be the soda bibs, you're just putting yeah, yeah. But all of those guys, they were all totally fine, guys and gals, all totally fine driving the trailer. But I do like we have a little tow behind unit. But then that has challenges just because it's small, and so towing something small, you got to make sure you have your mirrors out to really see it. So
Yeah.
but we've got 5 different pieces of equipment depending upon what works for different people in different markets with different kinds of shows need different pieces of equipment. And a lot of our franchisees we'll have, two different kinds of equipment depending upon indoor, outdoor, the size of the show they're trying to do.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Sean, I would say it's a good, like the actual, if you like doing these, if you come to an event and like doing the events and don't mind working weekends, and you meet our team and say, this is a great group of folks to work with and I want to be part of a team, then it just comes down to building a business. And a lot of our franchisees, this is their first business. So providing the support around, like you said, there's all that stuff in the background you have to learn how to do. Inventory, QuickBooks, taxes, estimated taxes, your tax returns, you're getting
I
a
find
general
sometimes
insurance.
that's the harder stuff to keep up
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. No, it's new to people, but we have, we have 20 franchisees who've all been doing it and we have a team that's helped them do it. So we have a good support team. And then I would say,
And like you
you know,
mentioned before, all the events and stuff, you guys have figured out what's good and what's not, you know.
we have, and
So
we know you know, it's hard. Like I can't, I like to make sure everybody knows starting any business is hard. We try to make this one easier because we know what we're doing. We've been doing it a while, but a franchisee goes out, does their first event and it rains. Like, there's stuff, you go out and it rains, or you go out and it's your first year doing an event with a new promoter and the spot is bad. Like these are the kind of things you just have to work through, which is going back the second year, getting a better spot. And also realizing that a lot of these promoters, they somewhat exaggerate on the attendance of their, so when a franchisee says, I think I'm going to, build my route and I'm going to pick these events, and we look at them and say, that attendance is never going to be that. Like, where'd you get it from?
they're
Oh, the
probably telling you
promoter.
there's 10,000 people and there's only
Yeah, yeah. We're like,
like
no,
500.
that's not true. So you have to, it's just the up, and a lot of times franchisees will say, well, I want to try it. And we'll say, if you're going to try it, don't spend more than, $400 on a spot fee. Like, everybody's going to ask you for more money. It's the first year. Go back to them and ask for a discount. Ask them to pay less.
What are
So,
the that comes to another question I just thought of. What are the other expenses? Like, so if
yep,
somebody's starting this business out, what are some of the bigger expenses that they could think of if they're investing in this?
yep. The biggest is the franchise fee, but we have a 50% discount for veterans on that. The equipment, so you have to buy their piece of equipment, and then the overhead pieces of your business insurance, your auto insurance, getting a QuickBook license, getting a storage unit. A lot of times people are getting a storage unit in a public storage place and they're buying a parking spot. So the expenses are QuickBooks, paying your square fees. The equipment comes with a generator. The equipment comes with a square stand. So you have most of the hardware, and it's really just the normal. If you start a business, you got to have business insurance. You're going to use a car to pull something. You got to have auto insurance. You got to have a place. Thankfully, a lot of our franchisees have trucks, so that helps. Or some of our franchisees have places to store the mugs and the syrup, and people park their trailers on their, if they got big pieces of property. But worst case is you're having to rent from a storage facility. So when we have equipment positioned in Denver, we have equipment positioned in San Jose, we have equipment positioned in Canada, we have equipment positioned in Portland, Oregon. We just pay to store it. We pay to store the inventory. We fly staff out, but you gotta, that's a other expense.
Yeah, I remember I
And then
had the I don't know if you've ever heard of Kona Ice. It's
yes,
yeah, I had the Kona Ice franchisee in my area used to live across the street, and when they first started, they had one truck, and they had it parked out in front of their house or in their driveway all the time. But within a year or two, they started to expand to multiple trucks. All of a sudden, there was like 5 of these things all parked down the street and in front of their house, and then I think the
yeah,
HOA started like, "Hey, you gotta you gotta move this out." So they had to go get yeah, there was like an industrial kind of park not far from us,
yes,
and they had to go buy a bunch of parking spaces.
yes. That depending on where you live, 75 to $200 a month. So we have two franchisees out in California. It's expensive. Like, the parking spots alone they're just nothing's cheap out there. So
Oh yeah, I can imagine anything in California. I think is sounds expensive.
yeah. So the other one, Sean, is there's the fixed expenses that we talked about, and then our model is we don't charge a royalty. We sell product, which is the mugs and the syrup, and then we have
Okay, that's
merchandise.
actually good to know. That would have been a good
Yeah.
question.
So somebody needs money for a piece of equipment for the franchise fee, and then they need to buy inventory, and we have different the level of opening inventory will vary depending upon how many events they plan on doing, and if somebody opening up in Portland where we already have events, we would say they're going to have a larger opening inventory because there's already 3 events in the convention center they'd need to do.
Is when someone opens up, is there typically are they usually doing an event every weekend
For
normally?
there's they they can, and some do. They don't have to, of course. There's generally good weekends for like our system wide where we just know everybody is, there's 20 weekends that are just banger for everybody, and then there's weekends that aren't as the week obviously Thanksgiving, there's holidays that are bad, and then there's holidays that are good. And then there's like the week before Thanksgiving, which it's just not a great weekend because most people are traveling or making. And then it really comes down to, December, January, February, March. You're either going indoor if you are in cold places, or, out in California, they're still doing outdoor events and doing some indoor events. So it really depends on what you want to do. We do have franchisees that have, 3, 4 stands, and they put their stands to work, and they have weekends that they have off, and they choose not to, they're decompressing after, they might have an 8 or 10 week straight, sprint where it's just really a really good part of the year. Like, May, June, July, October is a great month. Interestingly, sometimes in some places it slows down during the summer. Of course, in real hot in Arizona, you're not doing outdoor events in June and July, but you might be doing indoor events. So it's very, very market specific. We do make prospect lists when we have a new franchisee, and we go through, here's the rank order of here are the events that are kind of come out of what, similar to what we do in other places. And a lot of times they're events that we already do. So, and
Okay.
then we're kind of, we're based in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. We're doing events this summer out of our HQ for training and building that market. That's a market where, boy, if we had a Marine Staff Sergeant retired looking for a side hustle, anywhere. I mean, we're going to have, we're probably going to do 15 or 20 events this summer and have something built for somebody to kind of take over or buy from us.
Yeah, I grew up in Philadelphia, so
Yeah.
not too far from there. But I could see, I mean, the size of Philadelphia is just huge. But then outside of it, there's so many small towns and colleges that are just,
Yeah.
even like Lehigh. You got, Lehigh. There's a university up there. There's, all it is. It's just a large populated area.
Well,
From
Sean, I do have 2 at Lafayette, so we should say Lafayette, not Lehigh.
okay,
And you get the joke. Yeah.
is that
There's
something like at like colleges and stuff like that, or
Yes.
universities?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a franchisee who does a lot at Fairleigh Dickinson. We have a franchisee who does a lot at does events at Farmingdale State College. Like it's a matter of joining the Chamber of Commerce and networking and describing what we're doing. And there's always, there's always events happening. So,
There's another franchise that they sell popsicles, but I remember talking to them a while back. They have a franchisee out in Winston Salem, and they would go out to the Wake Forest University games.
yes.
So they would just park their truck out there and sell popsicles like all day long, and they would run out and have to go back and pick up more. So
Yes. Yes. That's exactly. And they want non-alcoholic. They don't want beer trucks. They want popsicles and soda.
well, yeah, I guess yeah. If you have a lot of college kids, yeah, you probably don't want. You're not just handing out alcohol. But like you said, the big thing is the mug you're carrying around. So
Yep.
it's
And the collectability of it. So we have, the one of my favorite is the Sturgis 80th anniversary mug. Like
mhm.
people want them. They go to Sturgis and part of their, they have we've been going to Sturgis for many, many, many years. They have a collection of Wild Bill's mugs. So
Yeah, yeah, it kind of reminds me of something. I don't know. Yeah, old Western, medieval. You could see a
yeah,
biker. You know what I mean? Just carrying this big mug around. So yeah, that's just kind of the lookout of it. And it's all steel, keeps your drink cold.
lifetime warranty.
What's that?
We offer a lifetime warranty on the mugs too.
Oh,
So
okay, that's good to
yeah,
know.
yeah. So no, people use them over and over,
Yeah,
and they bring them. Oh, we didn't mention this about the model, but if somebody brings a old mug to a event, they can buy a new one, or they can pay $10 and get unlimited refills. And so some you're building your route in your market, and some people come with with a mug from a different event, pay their $10, get unlimited refills, but it's a real value.
yeah. Huh.
And most of the time, we'll have a different mug, and they'll say, "I brought my mug, but I really like that mug," and so we'll sell them a. I'd say 90% of people say, "I wish I brought my mug," and then the 10% that bring their mug, half of them say, "I really like that new mug."
So are
So
they typically different? Will you change them up?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So they have different logos, different colors. We have, uh, powder coated and silk screened and engraved, and we have far too many SKUs of mugs, and we and people like them, and people collect them. I think looking for a few good folks, and
Is there any particular territories you're really focused on or trying to get franchisees from?
yes. So we mentioned the Lehigh Valley. We mentioned of PA. We mentioned San Jose, California. We mentioned Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, state of Kentucky, state of Missouri, New Orleans, the state of Maine, Western New York, the state of Rhode Island, and then a lot of other Oklahoma. We do a little bit in Oklahoma, but there's a lot more than that. Those are the ones that come to mind because there's events that we have been doing.
There's already like
There's
somebody got into
already
those states, they're already
yeah,
running, right?
we're already doing stuff, but and we also have we've done. I mentioned we have a piece of equipment in Canada, in Calgary. So we have done events in Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. I made the mistake of saying, "Well, how long can it be that we're in Canada? Like, let's just drive our piece of equipment from Calgary to Vancouver." So any Canadian or anyone who's looked at a map will realize that's really far. Like, so, but we didn't necessarily know. So we have serviced Vancouver from Calgary. And you go, by the way, there's a mountain range called the Rocky Mountains. But for my Canadian friends, I'm so embarrassed. They're like, and by the way, it's cold there in May. Like it might be snowing. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
when I was in high school, I played ice hockey, and I got to do a couple tournaments up there
yeah,
in Toronto and Ottawa. So
yes. We have a franchisee that's done some events in Toronto. But we really, the model is you need local people, Sean, like the
mhm.
flying people from Allentown, PA to, wherever. It'll work in the short term, but we really need local franchisees, and local franchisees can do the colleges, the college events, and the hospital that wants, and we support veteran charities and we've done a bunch of reunions for different veteran organizations. But you got to be local. Like it all comes down to local operators supporting people locally.
Yeah. And I know here, like North Carolina, Texas, Florida, there's so many veterans, and I'm sure there's
Yes.
so many different organizations and stuff. So I could you throw a rock. I mean, I've run into people. I've been at the gym just wearing a hat, and somebody somebody knew. They're like, "Oh, hey, man, where were you? What group are you in?" It's so. So it's kind of funny how I've ran into somebody that was they just it kind of surprised me. I was sitting at the pool and he just you know sat down next to me and was like, "Hey, man, what Kandak were you with?" Like he was talking about Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and we had actually like trained the same group of guys in the same area, in Afghanistan. So it was like, but he saw my hat, the logo I had on my hat, and yeah, so small world.
It is a small world. Yeah. So we're just looking for a few good men and women. Not we don't need 100. We need this year we're going to add 10. So
Yeah, yeah, it's always good. I've seen franchises that try to push it out too fast,
yep.
and when they grow that fast, there can be problems.
Yes.
I saw a franchise that, I mean, they grew. They had like, I don't know. They got 500. They sold like 500 territories within, I think, like within 2 years, and it was just that's just too much. Then they had franchisees who they couldn't open them quick enough, and they had franchisees literally sitting around for 2 years waiting for someone to come basically and get them open.
Yeah.
There's when franchises do that, then they start losing people. There was
Yeah.
um, or their system gets overloaded, and so they can't handle the workload. So
Yeah. I think I might have mentioned to you like we don't want to lose anybody, and I think we talked about COVID where our business was in pretty bad shape during COVID with all these what we did stopped all
oh
these
yeah,
events.
everything's shut down.
Yeah, and we worked really hard and worked with our franchisees to make it sure that everybody survived, and they did. So, we're really focused on the every you can't oversell and not be able to support them. And to the piece about the supporting, we're investing in our infrastructure. We just brought on a last year a VP of Ops, a very Army veteran who is a superstar ops person who is helping build out our franchise support so that we're ready for adding folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. This was pretty cool, and running into I had never heard of this before until now, but um, I see it as it can be a great concept, and there's a few franchises out there that people they don't even know about, especially the ones that are trying to openly find veterans. We're trying to track down
Yes,
veterans to have in business, and a lot of those are smaller, and so we don't hear about them as often. But
but we're
just
here.
because people don't have a big name on a building, I've talked to people like that sometimes too, where they want some empire name, they want it to be well known, and it's sometimes that's not always a good thing, and um, some of the smaller franchises that I've worked with, the franchisee themselves can make the same amount or if not more money than that bigger one that everyone knows about because there's too many operating expenses, right? So ideal, they're still profiting the same amount. It's just, um, so even though we haven't really, someone who hasn't heard about this doesn't mean it's not a great business to be in. So
No, and that hopefully they'll go out and go to an event and see it. Like that's the other piece that seeing is believing, which is why it's so important for people to come out
do
and
you put out like, is there anything that you guys put out of where you guys might be?
yes, on our
Okay.
website we have all of I think so. I'm guessing this year we'll probably do closer to 600 events around the country, and they're all listed.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so if anyone's listening, you can check out Wild Bill Soto's website, yeah, and find out where they're at. Go to an event and check it out. All right, Mike. Well, uh, I'll let you get going, but it was great having you. It was great to have another franchise that's focused on veterans, and um, yeah, hopefully we can find you some franchisees. So
We'll keep our fingers crossed, and thank you for all the support, Sean. And thank you for
yeah,
having me today.
great, Mike. All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yep.